Today we're going to show you how to make the best beef ribs on a charcoal grill. Now, in order to smoke beef ribs on a charcoal grill, you've got to set up your charcoal grill. We've showed you multiple different ways. We've showed you 2-zone. We've showed you the slow and sear. Today, we're going to be using the snake method. Now, there's many different ways to do this, but today I'm going to show you exactly how we use it every time to get nice and consistent temps. We're going to start by pouring in some Royal Oak Hickory pellet charcoal. All we're going to do is we're going to get our charcoal, we're going to set it, and we're going to make sure that it's fully touching, and we're just going to go around this kettle. So you can kind of use that little crease on the back side in order to make sure your charcoal is touching. And we're going to go around 3/4 of the way around this kettle. Once you're around 3/4 of the way full and you've made sure that all your charcoal is touching, I'm going to come back and right in between, we're going to add one more row of charcoal. Now the last thing I'm going to do is get one more piece, and we're going to go right down the middle over top of these 2 pieces of charcoal. So you can kind of see exactly what I'm doing. Make sure they're touching. Perfect. Now you might be thinking that this is a lot of charcoal for the snake method, but I prefer to have too much rather than too little. The last thing I want is for my smoke not to be long enough, especially when I'm cooking these beef ribs today. If the cook ends up being done and there's plenty of charcoal left, that's completely fine by me. We'll just shut the bottom vents and the top vents, kill all that fire, and then we'll still have some charcoal left over for our next cook. Now, when it comes to running the snake method, the wife and I have found that a 9-inch cake pan works perfectly here. So you could see that because I make such a large snake that I don't really have enough room for a half pan. So this 9-inch pan works perfectly for us. What I'm gonna do is fill it up with water, and the reason is because I do like to have a little bit of moisture in my cooking chamber, especially for longer cooks. I've said that about pretty much everything that I cook. Now I'm gonna get my torch and we're gonna focus on around 5 of these briquettes and get these nice and hot. And after about 1.5 minutes of having the torch consistently on this charcoal, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. Now I'm gonna put on my cooking grate. Now you guys might be wondering why I don't have wood chips or chunks on top of this snake today, and that's because there's already hickory pellets inside of this charcoal. Now if you guys don't have this type of charcoal, you'll definitely wanna put some chunks or some chips over top of your snake. Just make sure it's whatever wood flavor you want on your meat. Now we'll put my lid on top. And for now, I'm gonna leave all the vents completely open. I wanna make sure that I get up to temp, and then we can lock them back in once we're there. For our cook today, I've got some dino ribs from Tuttle's Meat Market in Woodsboro, Texas. Now the cool thing about this is when we're eating dino ribs at the house, we don't quite need a full rack. So what they've done is actually cut this in half, and this is the perfect size for my family. If you guys are not close to Tuttle's, just ask your butcher to cut your dino ribs in half, and I think that this is a perfect portion. There's lots of marbling running through these. I already know that they're gonna turn out incredible. These are the same exact dino ribs that we made for Malcolm when we went to Mississippi. We're gonna go down with a little bit of Worcestershire sauce as our binder. Rub it all in. And to keep these pretty traditional, we're gonna use Killer Hog's TX brisket rub, salt, pepper, garlic, large granules. It's just a perfect rub for beef. We're gonna do a pretty decent layer all over top. Don't forget to get the sides. We'll touch up any parts that I touched and messed up. And then we'll go over top with the light layer of our trifecta. I like to call this a multi-purpose blend because I think it goes great on everything. Light layer, but you can see that color come through. Won't really see it in the end because it's gonna get super barky, but I just wanna make sure to hit all sides. The kettle's right around 300 degrees, so I'm gonna go ahead and lock this in. I've got my vents closed about halfway now. Once we've got our temps locked in, we'll put our beef ribs opposite side of the lit coals. So you can see they're lit here and they're going to be burning this way. So I want that beef rib to be furthest away from the lit charcoal. And that's because we're smoking today. So we'll put our lid on, and you always want to make sure that this top vent is over your food. So the smoke is going to travel over the meat and out of the exhaust, and that's where you're going to get a lot of your flavor. Now at this point, the snake method is going to run for a very long time. I expect these beef ribs to take somewhere between 4.5 to 5 hours. That's just based off of what we've done in the past. But we'll check these in an hour and we'll see where we're at. At this point, this is very, very simple. You've done all the hard work. You set up that snake. Now it's time to let it do its work. It's been right at an hour on these beef ribs, so we want to come outside, see how our snake is doing, and check on these beef ribs. If I had to guess, I'm not going to need a spritz or anything like that, but I do want to show you guys how that snake method is going and how much charcoal we've burned so far. You can see closely here that we have not used that much charcoal for this snake method so far. We're still rocking around 275 degrees. The beef ribs are looking really good. I would say that these don't look dry to me at all, so I don't need to spritz, but I want to get this lid back on so I can continuously keep smoking these. Now, one of the things that you want to keep in mind is if your snake method's moving a little bit quicker than this, you can grab that grate and you can rotate the food away from the hot coals. So if they keep getting closer to the meat that you're cooking, you can rotate that grate away from those hot coals just to make sure you don't burn anything. We're going to wait another hour, we'll check on these, and we'll bring you guys back for that. But in the meantime, just let the snake do what it does. That's the beneficial part of this snake. It makes it really easy. We've been inside, I've been cutting the grass, I've been hitting golf balls right here, and I haven't had to worry about this at all. We're 2 hours into the cook on our snake method beef ribs. We want to take one more look, and I feel like around this time it might be time to spritz. We want to start monitoring temps as well, just so we can make sure that this is moving along exactly the way we want. So let's take a quick look at these beef ribs. Right at 2 hours, you can still see that we have plenty of charcoal here. That snake is doing exactly what I need it to do. The beef ribs are looking really good. They're starting to get some good color and bark formation on them. So I am going to hit these with just a little bit of spritz. I've got 4-to-1 water and Worcestershire sauce. I always like to use a little bit of Worcestershire sauce on my beef if I can. Just get some nice moisture on these. Get every single side. That right there is looking really good. What I'm going to do is I have a ThermoWorks RFX here. I'm just going to go ahead and put this right into the middle of my beef rib so we can monitor those temps. We'll put the lid right back on. Don't forget, you always want the top vents right over that meat. And at this point, 2 hours in, I'm sitting right at around 130 degrees on the internal temps of my beef ribs. So at this point, all I'm gonna do is monitor those temps, check every hour or so to see if I need to spritz, and then once they're done, we'll take them off and let them rest. The best part about the snake method is the convenience of it. It's almost like a pellet grill, but you're using charcoal and you're using your kettle. I've said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. I think this is such a perfect cooker to start with. You can smoke, you can grill, you can do a lot of things, and you can even make delicious beef ribs. It's been about 6 hours on these beef ribs, a little bit longer than I expected, but my RFX is telling me that we're at 198 degrees internal on these beef ribs. So now I want to start checking for tenderness. And before I open the lid to check on the internal temps, I did want to show you guys that even 6 hours later, we're still right around that 300 degree mark. We'll take a look and see how much charcoal we used on our snake method. I have a feeling that we still have got plenty. The beef ribs from here are looking incredible. One of the things that I did that we unfortunately failed to get on camera, but I'll tell you anyway, is earlier I was telling you guys we will rotate this grate to get this a little bit further away from those hot coals. So you can see that we started all the way over here. We've burned about 3/4 of the way. I don't know, a little bit more than that, a little bit more than half. But I've been rotating this grate away from these hot coals just to make sure that I have some distance. Now I probably could do it again, but we are pretty much done with this cook. So I would just say that because the hot coals are right here, we just want to rotate this grate away, and that's going to be perfect. Now, even though I trust the temps on the RFX, I like to double check and make sure with a thermopin. And we're not going to look at any temperature right now, but you guys can see that that falls in and it comes out like absolute butter. So just so you guys can see back at the house, we are right around that 201 degree mark, which is perfect for these beef ribs. Whenever I pull the probe out, nothing comes with it. So I know that these are done and these are ready to eat, but this is going to be the hardest part of this cook. We are going to let these rest. Now that we've got our beef ribs off and we're inside, we're gonna wrap these up in some foil and put them to rest. So this is extremely simple. We're gonna wrap these up tight. I'm gonna put these on my pan, and these are gonna go into the oven on keep warm until it's time for dinner. If I look real quickly, it's only 4:16. We're not gonna eat dinner till about 7, so they'll be resting for a little bit. That's gonna be perfectly fine. In my opinion, it's only gonna make them even better. The beef ribs are now inside of the oven resting, but we're back outside because I wanna show you guys that you can still keep the rest of this charcoal for your next cook. We're still rocking at 300 degrees, but you guys can see we still have plenty of unlit charcoal here. I talked about it earlier. I'd rather have too much of a snake than not enough, just to make sure that I can get through my cook. I'm gonna shut this bottom vent all the way down. I'm also gonna close the top here, and this is gonna cut off the oxygen to my Weber kettle, and it's going to make all of those hot coals die completely. The rest of the coals that I have left, you can use it to grill, you can use it for another snake method, however you want. You don't wanna waste these if you don't have to. It's been right at an hour and a half on our rest. I'm gonna go ahead and get these beef ribs out and see how we did. They feel really soft and nice. Let's go ahead and slice right through. Oh yeah, slices very easily. We'll take a quick look at our beef rib here. And from the backside, she's looking just about perfect. The beef rib looks incredible, extremely juicy. It feels really, really soft. Feels like that fat got nice and rendered. Of course, we gotta see how this turned out. They're nice and thick. The perfect amount of salt and pepper from that TX rub. You get a little bit of that barbecue flavor coming through on the trifecta. Plenty of smoke from the Royal Oak Hickory Pellet Charcoal. Oh my gosh. I've talked about it before. I think that beef ribs are better than brisket, and in my opinion, it's not even close, especially when they're cooked to perfection. I hope you guys could see just how easy it was for me to take a bite out of that beef rib. We'll do one more just in case you didn't. Zero effort, just comes off so easily. If you guys look at when I'm squeezing it here, it almost wants to start falling apart, but it wasn't overcooked, so it's perfect. And that right there is just how easy it is to make beef ribs on your charcoal grill. Use that snake method to your advantage. Take a relaxing day, and you're still gonna come out with some amazing beef ribs. This one is very foolproof. You just have to make sure you set up that snake method right, and it's very easy to do. If you guys have too much charcoal, don't forget, just shut everything down. You can use it for your next cook. This is gonna be good enough for us to have an incredible dinner tonight. So, as always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one. No effort. So good.